to give up work and you just speculate, you'll never be happy. Therefore, you don't have to give up work, but you engage in work in the spirit of devotion, with devotional service. That's real renunciation. You can't stop acting for a moment, but you can give the results to Krishna. Then that becomes transcendental. If one gives the results to himself or his own senses, or for his family, or even for a great altruistic cause, he's still guilty. Because unless it's used for the owner, we can't take someone's property and say, I'm going to use it now for the poor people, just like Peter Pan. Was it? No. It was not Peter Pan. Robin Hood. He would steal from the rich and give to the poor. He's still a thief. He had his idea that the rich don't need it, they have too much, so he gives to the poor. But he's still a thief. So anything we do that's not in devotional service is missing the point. We're missing the goal, and we won't be happy. We won't be satisfied.
Thank you. These are very important points. Arjuna is confused about whether it's better to work or not to work. And he's thinking that this giving up of all work and activity would be better, like we heard in the end of the purport. Where is it? In other words, he thinks that sannyasam, or renunciation and knowledge, should be altogether free of all kinds of activity, because work and renunciation appeared to him to be incompatible. But like we also heard, just giving up work and activities won't make one actually happy. Because we know we even have to everyone has to do some work, even just to maintain the body. So then we should know what is the perfection of work, not just to give up activity altogether. Even the lion, who's the king of the whole jungle, he has to work to get his food. If he thinks, okay, I have my whole pride here and I'm king of the jungle, so I'll just chill out, no problem. It doesn't, and some animal will just walk into my mouth, it doesn't work. Actually, he has to work very hard, because even though he's the king of the jungle and very strong and has all these fierce nails and teeth, he's not getting prasadam served out to him every day. There's not a place where he can go and take prasadam with everyone happily. He actually just gets a chance very rarely, like once in a week or once in a fortnight, he gets to go and try to hunt down an animal and then eat a little bit of that one animal for the next few days. So even the king of the jungle has to work. So there's no question of not working. The soul is always active. So we should know then what is actually the best type of work that we can do. And that's, as Maharaj was just saying, work in devotional service. Anything outside of devotional service is a waste of time, or keeping us here in this material world. Because the whole material world is working under the modes of nature. So if we're doing something, and devotional service is a super rare opportunity that's given by Krishna's mercy. So if we do something outside of devotional service, then that means we're doing something in association with the modes of nature, and associating with the modes of nature is what keeps us in the material world. So we should work for Krishna's satisfaction in devotional service. I'll read a little more. The Blessed Lord said, "The renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of works." Purport. Fruit of activities seeking sense gratification are cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard, Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies. thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this as follows. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yad indri. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yad indriya priteya aprinoti nasadu manye yata atmanoyam asan api kleshada ashadeha parabhavastha vadabodhajato yavana jigyasata atmatattvam yavat kriyastavadidam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha evam mana karma visham prayukte avidyayatma yamane Ritirnayavan mai vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. People are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about the nature of work for fruitive results. For as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. Therefore, jnana, or knowledge, that one is not this material body but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One has to act in the status of spirit soul, otherwise there is no escape from material bondage. Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. As long as the heart is not purified, one has to work on the fruitive platform. But action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the result of fruitive action so that one need not descend to the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which always entails a risk of falling. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Maybe I'll make a short point here that false renunciation means doing something, renouncing something, but it actually doesn't help our service, because real renunciation is giving up the fruit of the activity for Krishna's pleasure. So the main focus is that we want to do the service that we're being given for Krishna's satisfaction. So if we do some sort of renunciation, but it's actually not helpful to that service or not increasing it in some way, then it's false renunciation. It's not actually, there's nothing to gain from it. Because the whole point is to do the service better and increase the service.
Yeah. As an example, the Prabhu gives that if someone has his eating paraphernalia stolen, his bowl, his plate. So then if that happens to someone, then he just says, okay, I'll just eat on the ground now. No, he should get some other plates. That's artificial renunciation. I'll eat on the ground. Not clean.
So artificial renunciation is something that's not actually, it's not helpful. So renunciation can be there when it's for increasing our service. Like there was one letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to one, at least I heard this from another devotee, but he was saying there was one letter that Prabhupada wrote to a devotee where they were asking about some sort of renunciation they could do. Sorry, I don't remember the exact circumstance, but the thing that stuck with me is that Prabhupada said, what good is your so-called renunciation if you can't do any service? So if we do some sort of renunciation, but then it's hampering the service, then what's the good of it? The whole point was to do devotional service. Prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam palgukatyate. Renunciation by persons eager to achieve liberation of things which are related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, though they are material, is called incomplete renunciation. Renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything. One should understand that factually nothing belongs to anyone. Then where is the question of renunciation? Oh, so here's a nice example in this regard. This is a great example Prabhupada gives. So if someone walks into the Bank of America and they say, I renounce all the money in the Bank of America, people would just think he's a crazy person because it doesn't belong to him anyway. So if we think, okay, I'll give up all these material things, whatever it is, everything actually belongs to Krishna. So we're kind of like that crazy person in the Bank of America. So the proper thing wouldn't be to walk in the bank and say, I renounce all the money in here when it's not mine. But the proper thing is to engage all of it in Krishna's service, because he's the owner of all these things anyways. Whether it's if he gives us some intelligence or ability to work really hard or some strength or something. Any of these things, they're coming from Krishna, they're Krishna's, so they should just be used in his service. Just like if you find a wallet on the ground, the third class person takes the money in the wallet. The second class person, or it might be a little bit better to just leave the wallet there. It's not mine anyways. But even better than that is to take it and return it to the owner. So everything in this world is Krishna's already, so it can all be engaged in his service, and then that's the proper way to do it. So when we're meeting people and engaging them in Krishna's service, for instance, with book distribution, we're asking them to give some donation. It's actually so much to their benefit, because right now they have the money that they're having is Krishna's energy in the first place. And when they bring it back to Krishna, it's such a great service, and that's eternally in their benefit. Otherwise, it's like Ravana trying to steal the goddess of fortune. So it's if we're trying to take away Krishna's energy, it's like we're small Ravanas, at least myself or anyone in the material world. So when Krishna's energy is actually engaged, brought back to him in his service, then that's nice. One should understand that factually nothing belongs to anyone. Then where's the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. This perfect form of action in Krishna consciousness is far better than any amount of artificial renunciation by a sannyasi of the Mayavadi school. This is the next verse. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, liberated from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna. Purport. One who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer, because he feels neither hatred nor desire for the results of his actions. Such a renouncer, dedicated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, is fully qualified in knowledge, because he knows his constitutional position in his relationship with Krishna. He knows fully well that Krishna is the whole and that he is part and parcel of Krishna. Such knowledge is perfect because it is qualitatively and quantitatively correct. The concept of oneness with Krishna is incorrect because the part cannot be equal to the whole. Knowledge that one is one in quality, knowledge that one is one in quality, yet different in quantity, is correct transcendental knowledge, leading one to become full in himself, having nothing to aspire to nor lament over. There's no duality in his mind, because whatever he does for Krishna. Being thus freed from the from the platform of dualities, he is liberated, even in this material world. I'll read a little bit more. Only the ignorant speak of karma yoga and devotional service as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. So this Sankhya that's being spoken of is the Sankhya philosophy spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Kapila Dev. You can see him in a painting in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he's speaking to his mother Devahuti, and it's such a cool painting. His preaching looks so ecstatic. He's going like this. It looks just so energetic and enthused. So that's the real Kapila Dev. But there's a modern Kapila Dev who's actually an atheist with some so-called philosophy called Sankhya. And so that's not the Sankhya being spoken of here by this atheist Kapila Dev. It's the one spoken of by the incarnation of Krishna, Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti. Purport. The aim of the analytical study of the material world is to find the soul of existence. The soul of the material world is Vishnu, or the Supersoul. Devotional service to the Lord entails service to the Supersoul. One process is to find the root of the tree, and the next to water the root. The real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world, Vishnu, and then in perfect knowledge engages himself in the service of the Lord. So if we're trying to take care of a plant, the water should go to the root, and then all the leaves and the twigs are satisfied. So when we put our energy and attention to Vishnu, Krishna, who's the root of everything, naturally everything else becomes nourished as well. So it's not that every path leads to this same place, or this idea, yatomat tatopat. Because if we just water the leaves of a plant, it might just shrivel up and die. But if we put it to the correct place, the root, then it is nourished. I was just reading about this idea recently. Let's see. Srila Prabhupada is saying, in regards to this philosophy of yatomat tatopat, that all paths are leading to the same place. He was saying, everyone is dependent for success upon his, Krishna's, mercy alone, and all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success on the same path. So it's not that, because there's the verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is saying, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha, or sign of Bharta. So he's not saying yatamat tatapat, that all paths lead to the same place, but he's explaining how whatever anyone does, it's ultimately going to different steps on this path back to Krishna. So it's not that if I take the route to get to the third step on the stairs, then that's the same as taking something that gets right to the top of the stairs or the ladder, if that makes sense. They're different because you're ending up at different platforms. And there is a nice picture that describes what he is speaking of. Okay, here it is. As far as that verse where he's saying, everyone follows my path in all respects, if you see plate 18, as they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. So we see there's, at the very top, there's people engaging in the spiritual world in the highest, topmost transcendental mellow of this conjugal relationship with the Lord. And then on the different petals of the spiritual world, there's
a devotee engaging as a parent of the Lord. And in the middle, there's his cowherd friends. They're engaging as friends of the Lord. And on the right, as someone as the servant of the Lord. And then a little bit below that, there's someone as a cow in the spiritual world in this like neutral or servitor type of relationship with the Lord. So then we see here this part about how the different steps that people are coming to in these different paths. So there's an artist who's directly seeing the Lord by making artwork of Krishna. And then there's a yogi who is committing kind of a spiritual suicide and merging into the Brahmajyoti effulgence. And next to him, there's a yogi who's walking, or he was an impersonalist. Next to him is a yogi who's getting mystic powers. And he's walking on water. But those mystic powers he's getting, who are they coming from? They're coming from Krishna. So everyone's following his path. And then on the right is a karmic worker, and he's enjoying the fruits of his karmic activities. Where those fruits come from? They're coming from Krishna. So because they have these different desires, Krishna is rewarding them based on those desires. Just like when Indra was fighting Vrikasura, or Vritrasura, which is very incredible in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When Indra was fighting Vritrasura, the loser of the fight is the one that got to go back to Godhead, Vritrasura. And the winner has to rot in the material world, Srila Prabhupada explains. But that's because Krishna is reciprocating with their desires. That's what they wanted. So everyone's making some endeavor, and Krishna is the one that's giving those fruits of the endeavor. And they're coming to different platforms on this path back to ultimately serving Krishna. But taking a step to get to the third step of the stairs is not the same as taking an elevator that shoots you to the top of the stairs, like bhakti yoga and serving, doing devotional service to Krishna. Devotional service to the Lord entails service to the supersoul. One process is to find the root of the tree and the next to water the root. The real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world, Vishnu, and then in perfect knowledge engages himself in the service of the Lord. Therefore, in essence, there is no difference between the two, because the aim of both is Vishnu. Those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purposes of Sankhya and Karma Yoga are not the same. But one who is learned knows the unifying aim in these different processes. One who knows that the position reached by means of renunciation can also be attained by works in devotional service, and who therefore sees that the path of works and the path of renunciation sees things as they are. Purport. The real purpose of philosophical research is to find the ultimate goal of life. Since the ultimate goal of life is self-realization, there's no difference between the conclusions reached by the two processes. By Sankhya philosophical research, one comes to the conclusion is not a part and parcel of the material world, but of the Supreme Spirit whole. Consequently, the Spirit soul has nothing to do with the material world. His actions must be in some relation with the Supreme. When he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is actually in his constitutional position. In the first process of Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter, and in the devotional yoga process, one has to attach himself to the work of Krishna. Factually, both processes are the same, although superficially, one process appears to involve detachment, and the other process appears to involve attachment. However, detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. One who can see this sees things as they are. So are there any more comments or more questions? Yes, Bhakti Avatar. Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I was wondering about this picture you were talking about. Because it looks like you said the impersonalist yogi, but it looks like if you look at the picture, it's like different than the other three. And like, it looks like to me that he's like more connected to like the lotus than everybody else, because there's that like yellow line going up. So I don't know. It sounded like what I heard was that he's like not being rewarded equally as the other. Or he's I don't know. I didn't quite understand, because to me it looks like he's the one making the most advancement.
They're rewarded equally in the sense that they're getting what they desire from Krishna, and he's rewarding that. But the rewards aren't the same. That's the point I was trying to explain, was that they're getting to different stages, like different steps. So the rewards aren't actually the same. One person might just get, like the karmi, he's on the bottom right. He's just getting some like nice things to eat and some gold. It's just made out of matter. But there's other people getting different things. Like we see in the top right, there's someone who gets to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face as a servant in the spiritual world. So they're getting a different type of reward, but it's Krishna who's rewarding both of them. And they're both getting what they wanted, what they desired. But unfortunately, one had the desire just to stay in the material world and try to adjust material nature for a more comfortable situation. But then one had the desire just to serve Krishna himself. So he got that nice reward.
Brahmavati wants to go to, Brahmajyoti wants to become one with the Brahman. And he has no information or no interest in any personal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, he doesn't enter the planets. He stays in the effulgence. And the materialist, he can't even get out of the material world. He's packed up in the coconut shell, the Brahmanda. And he just keeps going from up and down to Paryadi, sometimes up, sometimes down, like on a Ferris wheel. And he's stuck. 8,400,000 species of life. And the devotee, the painting, the artist there, he can go either to any of the five, the Shantarasa, and the bottom there with cows appreciating. Then there's service on the right, Dasyaras, then friendship between coward boys and Krishna. Then the relationship of paternal, mother, father, taking care of Krishna as child, and then conjugal love on the top. So all those are open to the devotee, but not to the others.
So the six Goswamis of Vrindavan have described this process of devotional service so scientifically and in so much detail. And so by following in their footsteps, we get to understand these things and see these great details and science of devotional service, bhakti yoga. Yes, Bhakti Fred Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Maharaj, for explaining this nicely. And I just want to comment that I never really, this might be a foolish thing, but I never really noticed that in this top part of the picture and the conjugal love, that these are all Krishna with the gopis. Like they're all Krishna. Like I've never really noticed how these are all Krishna. I don't know how to say Krishna. Krishnas. I don't know how to like speak this. But then my question is, can we maybe, do you think you can maybe talk about plate 19? Because you seem to know a lot about these pictures, and I guess I haven't really paid that much attention to these pictures as I should. And this plate 19 is kind of cool because...
Oh, that's what we're reading about.
Oh, Okay,
No, I'm not cutting you off. Well, I am by accident. Sorry.
that's fine.
No, what were you saying? Okay. Yeah, that's what we're reading about. See, that's what we just read. He who applies himself to one of these paths achieves the results of both. I have actually wondered about this picture myself. So we're reading about one who renounces all activities. And so Arjuna is wondering which one would be better. But Krishna says works and devotion are just as good as renouncing material activities. So in the bottom left, we're seeing the person renouncing material activities. I mean, I only know about the pictures from reading about them, what like artists and devotees have described about them, so I don't actually remember, or I'm not sure if I've read
Okay.
about this.
It's cool because this Radha Krishna in this picture of the middle bottom of this older gentleman, I never noticed that either.
He's meditating on the Lord within his heart. And the one in the top, he's serving the deity of the Lord, the Bhoga.
And at the end, they're both in kirtan. That sometimes happens in India. The yogis with beards and everything, they, after spending so much time in meditation, renunciation, they just come and join the kirtan. And that's Atmarama. The Atmarama verse says that all these persons, when they come in contact with the devotees, they can become liberated. Pure devotees, they can become devotees themselves. So it's actually, those activities are pious. A real impersonalist is quite pious. He gives up meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. He doesn't do any of those things. And he may not know the direct path, so he spends a lot of time, but there is some piety in that. He's not engaged in sinful activities. And so when he gets an opportunity, like when the sannyasis at what's the place? Varanasi. When Lord Chaitanya, they were criticizing Lord Chaitanya for being a sentimentalist, but when he spoke to them about the real meaning of Vedanta, and they saw his effulgence and chanting, they also became devotees because they were pious. That's a good qualification. But without association of the devotees, then they won't achieve perfection.
Yes, Dr. Fred, Prabhu?
I have a question. It's about kind of like book distribution. When we meet people, I know I haven't done much, but it seems that certain people, like, they're just so excited sometimes just to hear about, like, see a spiritual books. And does that have something to do with piety? Or is that like Krishna, like, trying to direct them back to him? Is that like, I know that kind of a confusing question again. But like, I never really focused on piety until like coming to Krishna consciousness. I really didn't even know what that word was. And it seems that piety for the sake of piety doesn't bring you devotional service, but if you're pious and you happen to meet a devotee, you're like in a state that allows you to be like able to hear them. So I'm just wondering about this, like, this piety. Is it like a prerequisite to devotional service, or does it come after one participates in some devotional service in one of their lives?
Piety, if it's used in Krishna's service, then it becomes transcendental, just like everything else. But if one is very pious and he's very attached to the fruits of his piety, he considers that more important than reaching the goal of devotional service, and that piety is an impediment. That's so-called piety. But if he uses that piety, being polite and helping poor people, that's good. And if he helps them in Krishna consciousness, give them prasadam, that's transcendental. Everything used in devotional service, whether it's pious or even impious, becomes transcendental.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.